All right, so are you ready to dive deep with us today?
I am. Let's do it.
Okay, great. We're going to explore the writings of a 16th century mystic who had a lot to say about finding peace in a chaotic world.
Oh, cool.
You ready for this?
Yeah, definitely.
We're taking a trip back in time to hang out with St. Teresa of Avila and unpack her insights on the prayer of quiet.
I'm intrigued already.
Now, before you think, wait, I didn't sign up for a history lesson, trust me on this one.
Okay, I'm listening.
What's so fascinating about St. Teresa is that while her writings come from a deeply religious context,
Right.
her insights into the human experience, the search for inner peace, the yearning for connection to something bigger than ourselves, those resonate far beyond any specific faith.
You're right. It's kind of amazing how much her writing still applies today.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to look at today in our deep dive.
I like that.
Think of this deep dive as less about religious dogma and more about a roadmap to exploring a unique state of consciousness.
Okay.
We're going to unpack excerpts from St. Teresa's writings to understand what this prayer of quiet actually is
Okay.
and how it might be relevant to your life, even today.
I'm excited to see what we can learn.
You might be surprised what wisdom you find tucked away in these centuries-old texts.
Yeah, that's so true. The wisdom of the ages. There's always something there for us, even now.
Okay, so right from the start, St. Teresa hits us with this line, and I'm going to quote it here. "It is absurd to think that we can enter heaven without first entering our own souls." I mean, talk about a powerful image, right? It's like she's handing us a compass and saying, before you try to go anywhere else, you have to know where you're starting from.
Oh, absolutely. It really is a powerful statement because it speaks to a universal truth.
Right.
Before seeking something out there,
Okay.
whether it's heaven, enlightenment, or even just a sense of purpose, that journey always begins within, right?
Yeah.
It's about self-knowledge, about understanding the depths of our own being.
And she doesn't stop there. She goes on to say, "How is it, Lord, that we do not look at thy face when it is so near us?" It's like she's reminding us that this divine aspect, this source of peace or wisdom, isn't distant or removed, but present within us all along.
Yeah.
It's like that saying, stop and smell the roses.
I love that.
St. Teresa is urging us to stop searching for peace in far-off places and instead turn our attention inward to the present moment, where that divine spark already resides.
That's such a good point. That's a brilliant connection. It's about shifting our perspective.
Right.
Because so often, especially in our modern world, we're constantly bombarded with external stimuli, right?
Right.
We're searching for fulfillment outside of ourselves.
Outside ourselves, yeah.
But St. Teresa is pointing to the power of turning inward,
Yes.
of finding that stillness within where we can connect with something larger than ourselves.
It's so true.
And you know what? That something larger doesn't have to be attached to any specific religion or belief system.
Yeah, I agree.
It's about tapping into a universal energy, a source of peace and wisdom that transcends those boundaries.
It's so true. We get caught up in the noise, the never-ending to-do lists, the constant distractions. And here's St. Teresa, centuries ago, saying, hey, the key to peace, to really connecting with something divine, it's already within you. It's about quieting the mind's chatter to hear that inner wisdom. And I don't know about you, but that's a message I need to hear sometime.
Absolutely. And she acknowledges that finding that inner stillness is easier said than done, which is where the real work, or perhaps more accurately, the non-doing begins.
And that's a perfect transition to our next section, wouldn't you say? Because as relatable as all of this sounds, St. Teresa doesn't sugarcoat the challenge of finding that inner stillness. She's remarkably honest about how even in prayer, our minds tend to wander. She even describes the mind, even during prayer, as going off after the most ridiculous things in the world. I mean, who hasn't been there? I know I can relate.
Oh, totally. It's the human condition, isn't it?
It is.
Our minds are wired to jump around, to analyze, to worry.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Right.
But what's crucial here is that St. Teresa doesn't condemn this tendency.
Okay.
She offers a different approach altogether.
Right. And that's where it gets really interesting. Instead of battling those thoughts, which, let's be honest, usually just makes them louder, she talks about gently letting them go. Like acknowledging a passing cloud without getting swept away in the storm.
Yeah, I like that.
It's like she's saying, hey, it's okay, your mind is going to do its thing. Just notice it and gently guide your attention back.
Precisely. She even uses this wonderful metaphor of the will as mistress.
I love
this inner authority that can gently guide our attention back to that quiet center.
Okay, so I love this metaphor, but I think it might be helpful to unpack it a bit further. What does St. Teresa mean by the will as mistress? How can we access that inner authority, especially when our minds are going a mile a minute?
Well, think of your will like a gentle shepherd.
Okay.
The sheep, your thoughts will inevitably wander off.
Right.
That's just their nature.
Yeah.
But instead of getting frustrated, the shepherd gently guides them back to the flock. You're not suppressing thoughts, you're simply redirecting your focus with patience and a gentle hand.
I can relate to that. My dog is a master at finding distractions. It's like his personal mission to sniff out every single leaf and twig on our walks. But I guess that's the practice, right? Gently guiding ourselves back again and again.
Yes, exactly.
It's about cultivating that inner shepherd, that part of us that can hold space for both the wandering and the returning.
Exactly. And just like training a puppy takes time and consistency, so does training our minds.
It does.
It's not about perfection, but about showing up with patience and kindness towards ourselves and those wandering sheep.
Okay, so for someone listening who's like, all right, this sounds great in theory, but what does this gentle letting go actually look like in practice? What are some tangible things they can try to connect with that inner shepherd and guide their attention back to that quiet center?
Well, there are many practices that align with this principle.
Yeah.
Some find that focusing on their breath is helpful, noticing the in and out without trying to control it.
Yeah.
Others connect with nature, finding stillness in the presence of trees or the vastness of the ocean.
Oh, that's nice.
The key is to find something that helps you gently draw your attention away from those mental distractions and toward a more centered place within.
So it's not about finding one right technique, but about exploring different practices and discovering what resonates most deeply with you. I love that. It's about that personalized approach, honoring your own unique journey.
Absolutely. Now imagine you've found that stillness, that quiet within. You've connected with your inner shepherd. You've gently guided your wandering thoughts back to the flock. This is where the prayer of quiet, St. Teresa describes it, begins to emerge.
Okay, let's dive into her description. She talks about this state where the soul enters into peace, all the faculties are stilled and have no wish to move, for any movement appears to hinder the soul from loving God. I mean, it's such a beautiful, almost poetic description of this deep inner peace.
It is.
It's like a state of pure presence, wouldn't you say?
It is, and it's important to note that she's not talking about sleep or mere relaxation.
Right.
This is an active, receptive state, a heightened awareness of something beyond the everyday mind chatter.
Oh, wow.
It's like all those thoughts and worries just kind of fade into the background.
Mm-hmm.
And what's left is this profound sense of peace, a deep connection to something much larger than yourself.
And she emphasizes that this state, this
Yeah.
prayer of quiet, is not something you can force, no matter how hard you try.
Right.
It's about surrender, isn't it? It
Mhm.
is. It's like she's saying, the less we try to force it, the more we open ourselves to experiencing it.
Right.
You know, she says, in such spiritual activity as this, the person who does most is the one who thinks least and desires to do least.
Right.
It's like taking a step back and letting something larger work through you.
Yeah.
I imagine it's kind of like that feeling when you're trying too hard to fall asleep and it just won't happen. But the moment you relax, let go of the struggle, that's when sleep finally comes.
What a perfect analogy.
Wow.
It's in those moments of surrender, of letting go of our striving and our agendas, that we create the space for something greater to emerge. And this, I believe, is where the concept of grace comes in. Because, as St. Teresa makes very clear, this state, this prayer of quiet, it's not something we can earn through effort or willpower.
Right. She uses phrases like, we can no more control this prayer than we can make the day break, and it is supernatural and something we cannot acquire. It's like she's reminding us that sometimes the most beautiful experiences in life are the ones we can't control, the ones that simply arise as gifts.
Exactly. It's a gift, an act of grace. We can create the conditions, the inner stillness, the receptivity, but the experience itself is ultimately beyond our control. It's not about being good enough or meditating for hours on end to force this state. It's about showing up, being open, and then being grateful for however it arises or doesn't.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing because it takes the pressure off, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's like trying to force a flower to bloom. You can provide the sunlight and the water, but ultimately the blossoming is out of your control. Similarly, we can cultivate stillness and openness, but the experience of grace, that deep inner peace, it's a gift, not an achievement to be earned.
Beautifully said. And the appropriate response to this gift, as St. Teresa describes it, is not about clinging or striving, but about gratitude. She writes, we can neither diminish nor add to it, but being most unworthy and undeserving of it, can only receive it with thanksgiving.
It's about recognizing that this peace, this connection, it's not something we manufacture, but something that flows through us when we create the space for it. Kind of like how a sailboat harnesses the wind. You can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails to move with it, to allow it to carry you forward.
Precisely. And that gratitude, that recognition of something larger at work, it transforms the experience from something fleeting to something that can subtly permeate our lives, even outside those moments of deep stillness. It's like a fragrance that lingers long after the source is gone.
So, to bring it all together for our listener today, what would you say is the key takeaway here?
I'd say that St. Teresa's prayer of quiet, while rooted in her own spiritual tradition, offers a powerful and universal message. Within each of us lies a wellspring of peace, a connection to something greater, waiting to be discovered when we quiet the mind's chatter and create space for stillness. It doesn't require any specific beliefs or rituals, just a willingness to turn inward and listen to that quiet voice within.
It's not about religious dogma, but about exploring the potential of human consciousness, regardless of one's beliefs. It's about recognizing that deep down, we're all connected to something much greater than ourselves.
Exactly. And it's a practice, a lifelong journey, not a destination. There will be moments of profound peace and moments when the mind races like a runaway train. But the key is to keep returning to that quiet center, that place of surrender and openness.
And who knows what we might find there? It's like St. Teresa's giving us a glimpse into a different way of being, a different way of experiencing the world and ourselves.
She truly is. And if you're intrigued by this glimpse, I'd encourage you to explore St. Teresa's writings further. There's a richness and depth there that we've only just begun to touch upon today.
Think of this deep dive as a starting point, a little taste of what's possible. As you go about your day today, see if you can carve out even a few minutes to tap into that quiet space within. You might be surprised at what you discover.
You just might.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the prayer of quiet. Until next time, keep seeking that inner stillness.